I don't even know how I connected with you, Maura. I feel like we have like lots of mutual Facebook friends and a lot of people in the, raw foods world, raw plant-based, raw vegan, people who've juice fasted, all of that. And I think that I just probably in connection with someone else, you know how that happens, right? Um, but the best part about connecting with you is the fact that you're a believer. It's literally like a breath of fresh air because we are like, what do I say? A what do you call that? A needle in a haystack? Yeah, we're like a needle in a haystack in terms of being a believer and being on this path. Very hard to find us, but when I saw your testimony, I just, I just nearly, I could do a cartwheel. Well, I don't know if I've been successful, but I could have tried. But I was so happy reading what I read, and we had never talked before. And when I reached out to you, it was just it just sealed the deal. I don't know. She's such a beautiful person, y'all. You're gonna love her, and just bringing her here to testify and share what God has done for her, and she's going to walk us through that journey that she took. And I'd like for you to, I don't know if there's anything you want to say to introduce yourself before we just kind of start at the beginning. Is there anything that you want to say?
No, my name is Maura Artem. Feel free to friend request me if you have any questions after this live. But yeah, feel free to ask questions, and I'm here to serve. So
Oh, just like a daughter of God. That's it. I love it. So I wanted to know. I mean, we can start at the very beginning. You know, I'll say this before you receive your diagnosis. Like, what was the lifestyle that you were living? What were you eating? Um, how were you feeling? Just paint a picture for us with your words of the beginning of that journey and then lead us into receiving your diagnosis.
yeah, I think for the last 15 years, I had been on and off raw vegan. And so that's probably why I was so quick right after the diagnosis to I knew what God was calling me to do. Because God had planted seeds in my life, like when I would dabble with doing a cleanse. I'm here in Chicago, so I took a course by Karen Calabrese, the famous raw veganist in Chicago at the time, and I learned about this whole world. And so I would do it periodically, like maybe twice a year. And then as the years went on, as I got a little older, I did it less frequently. But then, and so on the off season, so the reason why I deviated from being a raw vegan is because essentially I would be going through some sort of stressful time, and I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't have the coping mechanisms. So I would turn to standard American eating, comfort foods, and that's all. that was my skill level as far as emotional coping mechanisms and dealing with high stress. So then after the results of that, I'd gain some weight, feel yucky, and then I'd be like, okay, time to get back to being a raw vegan. And even my schedule was conducive to that because I'm a teacher and I have the summers off. So when the summer hit, I'd be like, okay, time to reset. And then during the work year, I'd kind of like fall back again. So then anyway, and I think it was in like 2022, I did a 40-day juice fast, and that kind of reset me and relaunched me back into being a raw vegan. And I was committed to stick with it, maybe being a high raw vegan. But then and that was to help reduce my blood pressure because it had been creeping up. And I was like, okay, I know what to do. I watched, YouTube videos about how it really solves the problem, and it did. It really did. My blood pressure was perfect after that. But
Wow.
then, lo and behold, the next work year was really tough. Lots of stress, and I did totally go. pulled a 180 little by little, but then there was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of just eating, just anything I wanted, like any kind of, comfort food that I grew up on that was maybe, just, the cheapest and trashiest food just to comfort myself. And then a few months after that, that's when I had the diagnosis. And so I remember when I would be in the midst of eating this way, like I remember like I'd order food, I'd come home from work just so stressed and not knowing like how to handle it, and so busy, so I didn't have time to like really prepare foods and stuff. And I remember when I would order the food and then waiting for it to come, I'd have a moment where I'd pray to God and be like, God, is this okay? Is this okay that I'm
Mm,
doing this? Because
mm,
everyone else seems to do it. This is how everyone eats. Everyone does this. So is it okay? And the reason why I had that question, because I knew that God like he had planted seeds in me that that's not okay. But since I had fallen into it, I'm just like, is it okay? And then the food would arrive and I'd just be like, whatever, and I'd just eat it. Um, and then when I got the diagnosis, I remember, I got the notification on my phone. I pulled it up. I saw, you know, carcinoma, and I was like in denial. So I'm like Googling, what is carcinoma, like hoping
mm,
that I have it wrong, and then it popped up that it was cancer. And then in that moment, my doctor called and she's like, oh, honey, yes, it's cancer. And in that
mm,
moment, I remember looking up and being like, God, I know what you're doing here. Like,
mm,
he had been planting seeds in my life of natural healing. I had gone, like, so Karen Calabrese here in Chicago, she learned from Ann Wigmore, who has an institute in Puerto Rico. And so I
mm.
actually went to that institute over the years. Not that I had any health issue, but just to have like a nice spring break where, instead of going to an all inclusive resort where you come back feeling worse because you're eating and, all this decadent food, but
Yeah.
instead go somewhere for my spring break where it's by the ocean, beautiful, and it's healthy food. But there they taught the class. And when I was there, I went there twice and I met a man who was there from Australia who had a tumor in his neck. And he
Mm,
had said that it had shrunk down like more than half as a result of him eating the raw living foods there for a couple months.
mm,
And so, and then I had watched documentaries like the Gershon Miracle, and I don't know. I just always felt this conviction that if this ever happened to me, I know what to do. And it's just like this strong thing in my heart. Um, and so I knew what to do. However, going through the whole oncology department,
mm.
uh, that was tough. Like,
Can
I
I
really,
ask you a question?
please, please.
So, what led you to go? Did you discover a lump in your breast? Did you like before going to the doctors? What prompted you to get, make an appointment?
I, hadn't had a mammogram since before the pandemic, and my gynecologist was urging me to do it. So I promised her I would do it before the end of the summer. And then, so I had an appointment for a mammogram. And then, see, I was like so eating standard American food and like not in touch with my body, like literally, like I wasn't in touch with my body. But the day before the appointment, I was just like putting lotion on myself. And then the thought occurred to me, like, oh, like feel, like feel, or actually I had this brand new lotion. It was like so slippery. And I was like putting it on and I'm like, oh, huh. And so
Mm,
that just the day before the appointment, I was like, that's interesting. It feels hard on one side and not so much on the other.
wow.
So when I had the mammogram, I did say that, and so then they scheduled an ultrasound
Mm,
because of
mm.
that. Yeah,
Look at the timing on that too. Like you said, right before your appointment, that's when you noticed that, you felt that.
yeah. I
That's
was more in
wow.
tune. I was more in tune. I should have noticed it earlier. It's fun, not funny though, but yeah.
No, that's eye-opening, honestly, for all of us ladies, how often are we examining our breasts? How often are we feeling, it's something that a lot of people speak of, and um it's just crazy how something can form, and it's forming over a span of time, but like just the fact that you just discovered it, and how far along it was, so it really is very eye-opening to make it a habit, to there's all these videos and things out, oh, in the shower, check your, lift your arm up and all these different things and check, so, but how many of us actually do it? you know I don't, I don't hear it spoken of a lot, as much as it should be, in certain spaces it is. um but just hearing you say that, like all of a sudden you just noticed it, but it had been forming for a long time. I'm sure these things take time. So it's
Yeah.
very, very eye opening. So you receive your diagnosis through whether email or phone call, and speak to your physician or your doctor. And then what is obvious? I'm assuming the next step is them presenting. Did they present chemo immediately as an option, or what was the conversation like?
It was a kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it brief. I
You're
mean,
good. You're good.
well, after the ultrasound, they had said it was like late stage 1 or early stage 2, and the size of the tumor was like 2.4 centimeters, and then it had spread to one lymph node. But
Mm,
then after the biopsy, wait, yeah, after the biopsy, while the biopsy was getting processed, there was some time that passed after that, and then I had a breast MRI, and then the results of the breast MRI said it's 5.8 centimeters. It's
mm,
spread to multiple lymph nodes, like three,
mm,
and above the collarbone, there's also a swollen lymph node, and they're like, it's growing fast. Yes. And then, of course, essentially, yes, all of that.
mm.
We're recommending the full, the standard care. I'd lose my hair. There were so many. So anyway, I,
Yeah.
I I had said before the biopsy, I read online because I was researching like crazy. I read online that the biopsy is not a good idea because you're
Mm-hmm.
puncturing a
Yes.
encapsulated. I think
That
I've
that
seen
was
for
that was my
yeah,
next question. So go ahead, go on into that. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah. Once they
and
cut
they
into, yeah, it
they had made it
spreads.
seem like they would just puncture it once, but no, they punctured it like 9 times, and then
Mm,
they punctured the lymph node like 7 times, and I was like, it was kind of, it sounded like a hole puncher. Like I was like,
mm,
and then
mm.
I didn't even realize, I didn't even put, I was such in a state of stress that I didn't even put two and two together until like 6 months later. Like, wait, it's not that the cancer was all of a sudden growing, it's because it spread because you punctured it so many times. Like
That's right.
they but they were completely denying it completely. When I asked, are you sure? They're like, oh, so it's not a thing. And I'm like, it seems like common sense that it would. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. So then
Mm,
it's on my side. So they said the radiation could give me heart damage later in life.
mm,
They were saying, like I'd have lymphoma. Like if they first wanted to do chemo, then shrink it, blah blah blah. The whole whammy. But then they had this test result that said that chemo wouldn't work for the type of cancer I had past
mm.
tense. Jesus, yeah. Had. I love using the past tense now. But um
Amen.
But so they were saying the chemo wouldn't work. They're like, oh no, the chemo won't work. The test, the oncotype or whatever test came back, it wouldn't work. And I was like, yes, I don't want chemo. And they're like, no, this is not good. This is bad because this is the number one strategy and we don't know what to do. So they sent me to like a bigger hospital here in Chicago. And then when I got there, it was like the worst day of my life because they were like,
Mm,
we don't care about that test. You need to do chemo. And I'm like, and they're just like, no, 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 you got to do chemo. And, it was difficult because I don't have people in my life. Like I met a lot of people online who inspired me, but like I don't have anyone physically in my life who really understood this, this path that I wanted to take. And it, the hospital, the surgeon and they're treating me like, I was on a suicide mission. Like they're
mhm,
oh no, this is not gonna. I'm like, but what about those clinics in Mexico that you hear about where like the Gerson therapy, and they're like, oh, that's not gonna work out well for you. It's not
mm,
gonna work out well for you. So,
mm. I want
yeah,
to talk about that. First, I want to go back to something you said about, because this is not, you and I both know the truth of this, and maybe some of you haven't heard this before. What she was talking about is once they do a biopsy, that is when it spreads. A lot of times people, then this, the fear and this, the tactics of what you must do it this way, that's, when you're working with the medical field, that's their agenda. That's the only thing. They're not schooled in well care, or focus. Their form of the healing is to basically kill everything, and then get through that. Your the radiation, the chemo, to kill off all the good with the bad. We all know that, but the part about the biopsy is not, a lot of people don't realize once you do that. And it's not that, like she said, it's not that it just spread all by itself and got worse just that quick. And I can't even imagine what that must have felt like when you said it. Just, it felt like a or sound like a hole puncher, and they did, it wasn't just once or twice. You said they jabbed it about like 9 times. And so you think that cancer is going to stay in its one place when all of that being broken open and exposed. And so that's something to think about. Even just maybe many of us, I mean, you don't have to go very far to look for anyone that you may have known that has had cancer or has gone through it. So just that little revelation of hearing what she just said is something that's very, very, very important. So I hope that you grab that, because that's a good nugget right there. And then, so when you started talking about the fear, basically they're, I don't know what the proper word is. They're pressuring you, to do not what you want to do. And you mentioned that you don't really have like a lot of people in your life that are on that same path or have that understanding. So what when was the defining moment when you were like, you know what, screw this, for lack of better words, screw this, I'm doing what I really feel called to do? What was that moment like?
it's a good question. I I think, like I said, I knew it the moment I got the phone call, but I was encouraged to keep an open mind and, you know, consider what they're telling me by my friends and family. And through that process, I was confused and swayed. And I'm like, okay, maybe, should I? Like, maybe, I don't know, And so the defining moment of, oh, yeah, it was like, I think I was playing along with the
Mm-hmm.
process because I needed that diagnosis. Oh yeah, because I wanted to take a medical leave off of work. A lot of people were saying like, just work. You need something to keep your mind off. And I'm like, for me personally, I'm like, that's the opposite. Like, I want to put my mind on this. I want to figure this out. I want
Mm-hmm.
to press God. I need to get my act together. I can't be working like not even thinking about it. Like, I need a strategy. And so I basically had to kind of go along with the whole oncology department until my medical leave was approved, because they weren't even, it didn't look like they were going to approve my medical leave with my diagnosis of stage 3 breast cancer unless I kind of submitted paperwork like that I'm going to do chemo.
Ah,
Um, it's crazy, right?
yeah.
So I, I kind of, well, so it was like I was kind of playing along, but also trying to do what my friends and family were saying, which is to consider it, you know? But as soon as I got my medical leave approved, I was like, see ya, goodbye. I'm never walking in there again. Like,
Good for you. Woo! Yeah. I know there was nobody to cheer you on in that moment, but I'm like acting like I'm there. Yeah.
thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
I felt like when I was in those appointments, I just felt like, is this a Saturday Night Live skit? Like, I am not, this is can't be real. Like, because they would be like, don't worry, Maura, don't worry. You're not going to die. We have mastectomy, we have chemo, we have radiation. We are going to take care of you. And I was like, this is not comforting me. Like, basically, like, don't worry, you won't die. We're going to cut off your breasts. We're going to poison you, and we're going to burn your chest to the point where it's like, I just knew that, you know, God, for me personally, I know that a lot of people have been helped through these conventional treatments, and so it's a very tricky topic
Yeah.
to talk, because I don't want to diss those people who relied on God to get them through chemo and now they're alive. Hallelujah. But
Amen.
for me personally, I was like, okay, Jesus healed everyone he came into contact to, and he didn't heal them and like punch them in the gut. Like, okay, if I'm going to heal you, you have to endure all these things. It was like, no. So it seemed to me that it's like, you know how when you get to know God, your heart breaks for what breaks his heart. And I just had this sense that God's heart breaks when he sees his precious children going through that in order to heal. It just does, something doesn't seem right about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And even logically didn't seem right because of how chemo acidifies chemo kills your immune system. And that was my number one strategy to boost my immune system, you know. And I, from my experience of doing raw vegan detoxes, I knew I needed to detox my body, you know, because I had been eating, you know, just any old thing, you know, like, not to scare people if they eat junk food, but, you
No,
know,
keep it real, girl.
it's a perfect storm of not only just the eating, but this is my, you know, conclusion, my theory, but, you know, um, emotional, blocked feelings, like I never really learned how to feel my difficult feelings with love. That's why I love the name of your program, like Love Yourself to Health,
Oh, thank you.
not
God gave me
poison.
that.
Yeah, and then Eat Like Eden. I love that. And you said God gave you that too.
That's it. Yes, he did.
Makes sense, because that is a perfect title, um, to love yourself to health, because um, it's like we can't hate this, what has happened. We have to like love, like, I can't hate, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, F you cancer or whatever, hate cancer, like cancer sucks, like, which of course it does, but it's like your body needs nurture, not hate. And
That's right.
similar with your emotions, like when you have a difficult emotion, I mean, I've learned this personally. I've done everything, like, you know, spent all my savings. I've done everything I could think of, but ultimately, like, God, I trusted God to do it, but I just wanted to be obedient and do my part. Um, and with negative emotions, it's like I would always be ashamed of negative emotions, as if I
Mm.
failed. Like, oh no, I failed. I feel anxious, or I failed because I feel sad. But it's like now I've learned through this coach that I've been working with, and he's training me to do what he does now, and I'll eventually provide this for people. But it's like
Wow.
a way to learn how to like emotionally be there for yourself and reparent yourself. And when difficult feelings come up, you love yourself through them instead of hate yourself. Not hate yourself, but you know what I mean, like resist. And
Yes.
so if you live a lifetime of resisting your negative feelings, that has physical ramifications. So it was the bad eating, that the stress, not knowing how to, I was sedentary when I would go through a season of stress. I would be sedentary, just watch, scroll a lot, watch a lot of TV, movies. Also, there was a dental component. I had this tooth removed. I had um, wisdom teeth. Sometimes they have like they get like infected, and so I I had to go and get those like get oral surgery to get those cleaned out. And apparently, this tooth was like right there on the same meridian, going straight to the breast.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, like what she's talking about. I mean, you can look for a documentary, Root Cause. Oh man. Yeah, the whole mouth situation and root canals, and there's so much where depending on which tooth it is, it runs on a meridian connecting to organs and systems in your body. It's just kind of the same thing with like reflexology, how everything's connected. So what she's saying is the tooth, or in that area, it connected. Is that what you're saying to what you were dealing with in a
Yeah,
region of your breast, or?
yeah. The biologic someone had given me a tip about this, so I researched it. I went and sought it out, and the biological dentist, she said, she doesn't know. It's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but all
Mhm.
she knows for sure, the thing that she knew for sure, is that every single person she's seen who has cancer also has an infection like this in the mouth.
Mm,
Where at my dentist, I was perfect. Like I had no cavities, like no complaints. However, deep, deep, deep in the root, only seen through a cone beam scan,
mm.
there and only seen by a biological dentist who specializes in this. And the only one I could find was like in Utah. I had to fly out to Utah to get it done. But
Wow.
yeah, it's very specialized, so it's not very common knowledge. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I've looked up when I moved here to North Carolina, I looked up holistic dentists, like who were specialized, and I was very surprised there was like three in the area. And I'm like, where I came from, you couldn't find them anywhere. So it's a blessing to be able to yeah, what she's saying is very, very important. That's another great nugget to grab a hold of if you have dental work and all those kind of things. And there's a lot that I wish I knew before I learned these things, like I've never had a root canal, I've never had a tooth pulled, but my child has. And so like these things I didn't find out till later. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But you don't know until you do know. So even in terms of putting metal in your mouth, you want to get those things removed, or if you do porcelain, or like there's other options, healthier options for your teeth. But I love that you shared that about emotions and about um, you know of the revelation of finding out about your teeth and that connection to, or the dentist saying that pretty much almost everyone she's noticed that has had cancer has had infection of some sort. So that's, yes, a cone bean scan. You spelled that right. I believe you spelled that right,
yeah,
Rebecca.
this, yeah,
Right? She spelled it right, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and look up the documentary Root Cause. I've seen most of it. I get to finish it, but it's good. It's very eye opening. You'll never look at dentistry the same ever after watching that. So what I was going to ask you was from that moment where you got your clearance to be on leave. So did you say, yeah, you kind of played the game? You kind of played the game of like, okay, I got to do this in order to get my clearance. So did you like sign up for chemo, like to start and then just not show up, or like, what did that look like?
I didn't go that far. I said I'll think about it. How much? And they said, okay, you don't have that much time to think about it. And I'm like, what's the max amount of time? And they said 2 months. So was it 1 or 2 months? I don't remember, but I promised to like get back to them, but then I just never did. And I
Did they hound you with a bunch of calls since they didn't hear back from you?
and I didn't respond. I didn't pick up.
Morris said, "I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and then that is not it. Chemo is not my portion." And so I love that. Like, it takes courage. Can you guys imagine the amount of courage it takes to go against the grain and the pressure of the medical industry, and the fear mongering, and there's no other option, this is what you have to do? And can you imagine that? Like, I celebrate you for having the courage to say, you know what, I know what God is showing me. And as a believer, you really have to be tapped into the spirit. And it's hard in the world we live in now, where a lot of things are fear based, and it's so keep an open mind. They want her to lean that way, but she chose not to. So did you map out a plan? What was your maybe step 1, step 2, step 3? Did you find someone online that you reached out to? Or like, how did all of your healing start? And where did you start?
Yeah, I started right away, because I had that head start because I knew about the raw vegan lifestyle. So, and then I quickly found out about Chris Beats Cancer. So I watched all his modules, joined his group, read his book. I got a consultation with Dr. Morse and started on his tinctures to help the kidneys, the gallbladder, like all the adrenals. He has tinctures for like every organ. And then I called Puridyme, the the company that sells digestive enzymes, probiotics. And I had previously watched YouTube videos with Lou Corona talking about health and detoxification and the raw living foods lifestyle. So I called his company, and I was just throwing out. I was just like, who can help me? And so I left a message on, from the customer service of ordering enzymes. And then lo and behold, he calls me and invited, to make a long story short, he invited me to, work with him. So I spent like a small fortune. Yes, doctor. Yeah.
I'm
And to work
Yeah,
with him.
because I know there's a lot of names that you're mentioning that a lot of them may not be familiar with too. And you said, was it Chris Beats Cancer?
Yeah. Yes. And the
Is that?
Corona, COR, like the beer Corona, like CORONA.
Oh, I put an A. Oops. And I'm just typing that out now. Chris Beats Cancer. Is that like a YouTube platform? Is that like what is?
He has a paid uh, program with modules that comes with a Facebook group, but
Okay.
twice a year he gives it for free, for like a month, it seems.
Wow.
You can go on his public website, and this is something I did to encourage myself a ton at the beginning. I went on his website and I watched YouTube videos of testimonials of, oh, and he's a Christian too. When I found
Ooh.
out, so I joined Chris Beats Cancer's group. I didn't even know he was a Christian. So when I logged onto his group and saw like scripture and that he's a believer, and even in his module, he's sharing the gospel, I was like, this is a sign. Like,
God
yes.
ordered your steps.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There's even a supplement company who, they were Christians. On the packaging, there was a scripture and they prayed for me on the phone. Like, all those little things were just so encouraging to me. And then some of the people Chris interviewed, I would buy their books and read them. Women who had breast cancer who healed, all natural. So that encouraged me as well. But when I worked with Lou, I think I probably could have done it on my own, because really I could have learned what he taught from YouTube videos, but the the experience of working with him and being like in his, getting to know him personally and hanging out with him really helped, because it gave me that confidence that like you can do this. he had all these stories to tell me about other people. And, he doesn't claim to heal cancer, but what he just teaches is raw living foods. And so I learned recipes from him, and he taught me how to make all of his delicious recipes, even though I thought I'd have to be real, real strict. But when I got there, he was kind of showing me all these delicious recipes because he wanted me to have longevity as a raw vegan. Um, and when I got home after I left, that's when I did more of the hardcore, like, of work of like juice fasting. And well, I did it a little bit, but I was so excited to make all the recipes I learned that I
I
really
bet.
just I really just enjoyed raw living foods and all the delicious recipes. I was just so excited to get to work. So I didn't juice fast until uh, so the diagnosis was in September of 2023. And then I went back to work. I'm a school teacher in Chicago, and I went back to work, the fall of 2024. So just this past fall.
Wow.
And
That's
blood,
recent.
yeah, and the blood test results were they were decimals. So it's called Signatera, and so it's a monthly blood. They gave me monthly blood tests because it was through a naturopathic oncologist that I got that insurance doesn't pay for. It was very, very expensive every time I wanted to talk to her or do treatments like IV vitamin C IVs. I don't even know if it worked. Like, I did so many things, but ultimately I ran out of money and I stopped doing that. And when I had gone back to work, I was so worried that the stress from work would cause the numbers to go up.
Mm.
And they did. Like, they started. So before I went back to work, the numbers would fluctuate. So every month it would either be a decimal, or sometimes it would crawl up to like 1 point something, 2 point
Mm.
something. And when it would have the tiniest increases, I would freak out. I would be so dramatic. I mean, understandably, I would be so dramatic.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult thing. And I would just, like, someone posted the question, like, what did you do when you wanted to give up? And I was thinking about that before the interview. And I would cry out to God, like, literally. I would, like, get on my knees and just wail and
Mm.
cry out and seek God, and just declare my faith that, like, I know you're good. And Romans 8:28, like, you work all things together for my good because I love you
Yes.
and your purpose. So where's I am relying on you, God. I need you. And I know that there's good here. Help me to see it. And then another thing I did is I'd go to church and just ask for prayer, after church, like, the prayer ministers
Mhm.
there, especially the pastor's wife, like, she would just pray for me, and she had so many wise nuggets of encouragement, and that helped me so much. I would just, like, cry, like, every Sunday. I'd just, like, cry. Most
Mm.
of it was praising God, though. It was just during worship songs, I would just be like, I trust you. Like, every word, every little phrase and sentence that we sing
Mm.
in worship songs, like, I was like, I really am, like, counting on you. Like, I rely on
Mm.
you. You'll never let me down. You're the way maker. Like,
Yes.
that's pretty much what I did in the times when I felt like giving up. But that's
Mm.
how when the numbers would go up, that's how I would take it real hard. And I so then when I got back to work, I was afraid the numbers would go up, and they did. And it
Mm.
went up. It went up higher than it ever had been during the last year. It went up to like 5. And when I saw that result of 5, I don't know what happened in me, but I did not cry. I did
Mm.
not fret.
Mm.
It was like literally having faith for what we do not see. Like, even when the
Yes.
result opposite of what you're looking to see,
Mm.
you trust God anyway. Even when it doesn't make sense, you just be like, so that's it's like my faith kicked in, and I
Mm.
was just like, God, I trust you. And I didn't even cry. And then the next month it went up to 8 point something. And I'd never even seen it that high. And again, I didn't cry. And I was just like, God, this is crazy. But I had this sense that it was like a test. Like, are you going to trust me now? Are you going to trust me now? And I'm like, I do. I do. And,
Mm.
but that's when I did start a long fast. So I did a 38-day juice fast. And then I did a 5-day water fast right after that. And then I had never done a 5-day water fast before. I did a 3.5-day right after the diagnosis, but on the 5th day, I had attempted a dry fast, which I had learned is a very bad idea. You should not do that, especially after a water fast when you're already depleted.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that was real rough on me, and I had gotten so skinny, and I was like, man, I'm going to gradually get back to eating, and then I'm going to eat. I'm going to bulk up. I'm going to eat. So, and that's what I did. And so I was like eating, and I even had like raw vegan desserts a bit much. And then the next thing I know, the test result was 0. And I was like, what? This is amazing. And then I was thinking, go ahead.
No, I'm just praising them, girl.
Because
I know you can't see me, but my hands went up.
because
Oh.
fluctuate every month, I was thinking, okay, I got a 0, but next month it'll probably fluctuate up. But even if it will, I still believe God, even if that happens. But then I got the next 0, and the next 0. Now I have had 4 months of 0, no cancer detected.
I'm telling my soul, my spirit just got happy. Like I got the I'm trying to keep myself composed, but like I'm really like let's just pause a minute. Let's just sit in that for a second because you the part about worshiping God, what you proclaimed, God, I trust you, you worshiped, you sought out prayer, you surrounded yourself, with the body of Christ. You surrounded yourself with believers to build you up, to, hold your hand through it, even though you had moments where you felt like you maybe freaked out because it's scary, it can be scary. It can be a way where fear really tries to have its way. But after a while, then that peace kicked in and your faith leveled up and you're like, you know what? I believe God. I really do. And you mentioned that you felt like the second time when it got higher, that it was a test. That you felt like it was a test. Are you going to believe God or no? Like, what is it? Which one is it? Because that fear can cancel out that that faith. Fear literally can just cancel out the faith. So we can say one thing, and then next moment the total opposite, be scared, so I love that you really you just pressed in. There's a moment where you gotta lock in. You have to lock in. And I love what you said about praising, and just not just doing the work, but you talk about the emotional component. The things in the naturals, other revelations that you receive, about the dental work and the other thing, it's layered. This is not one dimensional, but I just praise God. Like I just feel joy, like it's just bubbling up for your healing and getting that 0 after all and feasting. So you know what? Okay, I did the work. Let me eat. Let me enjoy. Let me just build my body up, and then boom, you got your 0 and again and again. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just got the like if I could right now, I'd run around my dining room table.
Thank
I
you.
do I do a lap. I do a lap real quick. And everyone's praising God in the comments.
Yeah,
They got a lot of, yep, so
okay.
she put her faith in action. The emotional component is real. It really is. And emotional detox is real too. We talk about that too with juice fasting and stuff. But Yeah, so what let me see, how can we is there any other revelations or anything that you wanted to share um or the conclusion of your testimony? Is there anything that you feel on your heart that oh, I want to know, what about the naysayers? What did once you got your zero reading, was there anybody that like came back to say anything, or was it all like just totally quiet, like you could hear a penny drop, like no one said anything? Did anyone like, I'm sure the body of Christ rejoiced tremendously with you, but like anybody who was telling you, try to be a fear monger, was there any feedback from those people when they heard you're healed?
They were, just happy for me. When I would, before I got the zero, I would be in different appointments. Like I sought out, a ear, nose, and throat doctor because, you like just, having no stone unturned, just various different appointments. And so I would mention to the various practitioners, my situation, and they would warn me. They would warn me, this is not a good idea. But then it shifted when I'd have these types of appointments and I'd be like, oh yeah, and then I have zero cancer detected. And then they'd be like, oh, well, that's great. Good for you. And that's it. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for you. Like that's yeah, isn't that crazy? That's just crazy. Not
Yeah.
like, wow, congratulations, you did that. Like, not even acknowledge the fact that you did the work without, needing to go that route. So, and we know
Yeah.
it's all foreign, to them. And we're the type of people that seem like a bunch of quacks, who want to go the natural way, or so I mean, God gets the glory no matter what. Trust and believe. Even though they said good for you, I know they were still very much surprised. And so what would you say, like, right now in your life, what is different, um and in terms of your outlook on life, or your walk with God after coming out of this, or like what has changed for you?
Wow, great question. Humble pie. Yeah. Well, I went through so much fear, it's like I had to walk through the valley of shadow of death and ultimately fear no evil. Not that it happened very easily, but, and so, like I've been so freed up. Like at church, I wasn't typically someone to like raise my hands, but now through that process, I was just like, I give it my all. Like, I'm so like, just, I give everything to you. And that's been how I live now.
Mm,
And depending on him for everything and not caring what people think. I learned with all of the coaching I've had to set boundaries, to take care of myself, number one, because I had been like a people pleaser and the type of person to give more and not get much back. And so I've been working, and I'm still work in progress, but I've come a long way with advocating for what I need, asking for help. Um, and for the rest of my life, I'm locked into being healthy, and I'm grateful because, like, God didn't cause this, but He certainly can make good things happen out of anything. And
amen.
this is a good thing that has happened because I always wanted to be healthy. I just didn't have discipline um, to consistently do it. And so now, I'm 51 years old. I'm fit. I still have like little bumps. They're much smaller, but there's a bump up here and then a bump here. Um, and and I know that God, it's it, things are a process, and that they will eventually dissolve and be eliminated.
Amen.
But I'm not I'm not I'm not going to be quick to run back to bad food. Like I actually I feel like, okay, I've lived half of my life eating bad food. I've had enough of it. I don't need more. Like it's okay. I've had enough of it. And now the second half of my life, I'll eat all healthy foods, and I'm excited to learn how to prepare them in a delicious way. Like I can learn to be creative and have healthy meals that I love. Um, so I'm forever changed. All the emotional work I did, all the counseling, like
Mm,
going through old past issues, it served me well. And then, during my darkest times, I'd be trekking around Chicago, finding all these weird locations for appointments, and I'd be so distraught. Sometimes I'd just walk down the street on a busy street and just like cry and not
mm,
even care. Be like, and people are seeing me. So it's like, all of that just helped me to like not care about things I used to care about. It
mm.
really freed me up. And I even,
Don't that feel good to be free, to not worried about the opinions of people, and just when you talk about praising God without caring anymore. You didn't before, you weren't lifting your hands, but now it's just like I don't care. I I remember the moment. I'm gonna let you finish. I remember the moment where I went from always being in my head with worshiping God and, well, what if I sound crazy, or what if they're looking at me like this way or that? And then it just took one moment where you get that breakthrough and praise, and then you don't look back. After that, it's just like, hey, if I'm snotting and crying and my face is all I don't care. So I can imagine how you feel now. Like,
yeah,
wow.
right. And I remember I was influenced by my pastor where it was like the weekend, the Sunday before his son was going to have a brain surgery, and we were all praying and fasting for God to do a miracle and help this young boy. And I remember hearing my pastor. He sang. He was off to the side, and during the worship, he sang with everything he had. He was just bellowing so loud, and it was like
Mm,
that really made an impression on me. And so I was kind of like that too. I'm just like, I don't care if I sound bad, but I'm like, that's not the point of worship. Like the point of worship is just like to give it all and just
that's it.
really, really declare our faith in these things that we're singing. Like we're not just saying them for no reason. Like this is the faith on which we stand. And so yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. Wow. Um, so I know, like, you talked about going through all your money, running through, the difficulties with being on leave and all of those things, what that look like. And I know that you, um, at a certain point in time, you did like was it like a GoFundMe or something like that? Uh,
Yeah.
talk about how that happened.
Yeah, because I was keeping this whole diagnosis on the down low from, Facebook, because whenever people would find out through my family or whoever, like they would message me and, plead with me to do. A lot of people would text me, message me, pleading with me to do chemo, and they would tell me tales of people who didn't do chemo who died, and I was
Mm,
like, and so I didn't want to be public until I had my success story, but I was just so desperate financially that um I was just looking at my bank account and I was like, and so I put out the GoFundMe, and it was just like a huge blessing. It really helped to take the burden off. It gave me some wiggle room, and
mm-hmm,
I'm just gonna. It really helped. So I'm starting from scratch now. I'm grateful I have a good job as a teacher, and then I'm gonna, like, I've already, like, a lot of the products I've been using, I've gotten affiliate links, so I have, oh yeah, before the diagnosis, I was hustling, building a parent coaching business. So I was kind of burning the candle on both ends. And I was working so hard because I had paid business coaches. And it's like, I want to get the most out of this. So I need to do what they're telling me to do. And I really learned my lesson. like it's great to be an entrepreneur and have dreams and goals, but you have to have balance and rest and can't be too overloaded. But anyway, so I have a business called getkidstobehave.com.
That's
And I'm
right.
going to
You're a teacher. What grade do you teach?
I teach second grade. And whenever I get like those difficult students, I just have a way with them where they just really balance out healthily and they're great. And so I felt God was so pleased with that He wants me to share it. So I started a business. I created a 12-week program for parents, but now I'm changing it to get kids to behave, be healthy and empowered for life. And if anyone like finds me, Maura Artem, or Get Kids to Behave, there's a link where you could see a few of the products I've used where there's links, and then like that's just the beginning of my efforts to find an alternative way to make more money. But you know, so I never buy a house. Like that's okay. That's okay. Like it's okay.
Listen. God can do anything.
Yeah,
You just don't know. God can do anything, and He is the God of multiplication. That's what I always say. So He can take what little, right, and next thing you know, you have an unexpected blessing. So just the way God sent that overflow through the GoFundMe,
yeah,
you never know what God will do. And so I just wanted to say this to everyone watching. I can definitely vouch for the products that she now is an affiliate for. I personally use them myself. I used um, some of them after my juice fast. I've used the enzymes, I've used the probiotics. I don't know if there's anything else that I've used, but great company. Lou Corona, she mentioned him earlier. um Definitely, he's the creator of the very famous lemon ginger blast that a lot of people who have done juice fast know about. That juice is powerful.
yeah.
Powerful. I when I tell my testimony, or if anyone who's interviewed me, if I talk about the juice that I actually did do, it was that one, and I literally wanted to cry tears because it was hard for me to drink, but I realized why. It wasn't me not liking it. It was the toxic load, it was parasites, it was all the things in my body that was like, we're melting, we're dying, so with that juice I could drink it now, and it wouldn't feel the same because I'm on the other side of a lot of stuff. But yeah, the I just wanted to vouch for the company that she's an affiliate with. So you know, um, if there's anything that you're looking to do, you can couple between a consultation with me or purchasing from her links directly, or if there's information that she can give directly about each product. I'm sure she's more than happy to share that. And she'll be in the group through tomorrow. I'm gonna keep her in here so that she can drop the information. Um, Whether she comes back and puts it as a different post, or I think it should be its own post. Yeah, I'd probably drop some of the names that you were talking about Chris Beats Cancer, and Lucrona Paradigm, Dr. Robert Morris. There's a lot of names that I have heard of, but there's maybe like a couple of names. You named someone who does raw foods in Chicago, or you took a course. I
Well,
can't remember.
she's not. She closed her shop in Chicago, so it doesn't exist
Okay.
anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Look, God had it open just in time for you. So yeah. Is there any this has been amazing. This What a way to end our Friday night lives. I just gotta say this because I literally wanted to run around my dining room table and have a praise break. What a powerful story of overcoming, just walking in that the path that God set out for you, dismantling fear, all the fear mongering that was thrown your way, and you knew what God had called you to do, and you did it. And just look at you now. You're amazing. You are absolutely amazing. And I'm really grateful to have connected with you. And who knows? I mean, I got future groups coming. If there's anything that I can do to help be of support, refer your what do you call your link for products or anything, or if you connect with her, um, whatever way you feel led to be a support, definitely support her. And yeah, any closing words for you, Maura? Anything that you want to leave with the people before we hop off?
Yeah, a couple things. For one, it's like uh, a lot of people have seen this journey for me, and yes, it's inspired them spiritually, a lot spiritually too. I see in my family, but like when it comes to how about you? Do you want to start to eat like this? Do you want to start to, use these powerful digestive enzymes to help you digest, especially when you have bad food? Like that would really make a difference. And they're kind of like, like, and like I was like that before because we all just want to skate by and hope everything's going to be okay. Like, well, you walk down the street, there's like, Korean fried chicken, then there's like, sushi, then there's a taco place, there's like Taco Bell. It's like, it makes it seem like it's okay to eat that way.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who eat that way and nothing happens to them.
Mm,
But it's also true that in our country, there's huge, stats of people with heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, arthritis, all these different degenerative diseases. And we just all want to kind of like not think about it. It seems like that.
mm-hmm.
But like, I just want to encourage everyone, to be preventative, like not to change your ways when crisis comes, but do it in advance. It'll be much better for you. And then spiritually, like I look back on my life and I had been, pursuing God for like, I don't know, like 18 years. And I am so grateful that I did because
Mm,
I had a strong foundation to withstand this storm. And I was just like I remember after the diagnosis, I went to the secretary at my job because she had had breast cancer and she went through chemo and all that. So I went to her and I was like, it's happened to me. Oh my gosh. Ah. And she said, okay, do you have faith? And I was like, yes, that's covered. And she's like, good, you're going to need it.
mm,
For such a time as this, you need, so I'm just so grateful that maybe according to the world, they'd be like, well, why is Maura doing all this Bible study? And why doesn't she go out and party anymore? And, you know, why is she all about church? But I'm so grateful because you need a strong foundation to withstand, the fear that comes when trial comes, all of the difficulties. So just
mm.
want to encourage everyone on that front. But it sounds like everyone in here is someone who does pursue God. So you are equipped. You have the only thing you need to get you through, to rely on Him through everything. And I even had to get to the point of like, just like in like Daniel's friends, like my God can save us from this fire, but even if he doesn't, I know he's still good and I still trust him. I had to get to that.
Oh,
Um,
man.
yeah, that was freeing.
Mm,
It was a breakthrough to really trust him. Like, it's not like oh yeah, I found myself praying like, God, I need you to give me a lower test number this month. I don't know what I'll do if I don't have a lower test number. But then I got to the point of being more mature in my faith, being like, even if it's higher, I trust you. And then it was higher, and that's how I knew. It was like, okay, I still trust higher, and I trust you,
mm, mm,
no
mm.
matter what, no matter what. Even
That
if I die, I trust you. Of course, that would be very difficult to navigate through, and I'm glad it didn't go in that direction. But even if it went in that direction, I still trust God. That would
that's
be the
right.
game plan.
That's it. Trust him no matter what.
Yeah.
Yes, Lisa definitely watched a replay, watch from the beginning because this was so good on tonight. Lisa is a breast cancer survivor as well. You're going to be tremendously blessed by this, Lisa. Um, Everyone said thank you so much for sharing your story. My God, this was amazing and a blessing. I absolutely love this live. Um, yes, someone said put your links in the chat if you have your links. But when we log off, if it's easier for you, Maura, whatever's easier for you. Um, I'm not gonna kick you out of the group. You'll be in here till tomorrow. And you can, whenever, if you want to, after we log off, you can put your information in one whole solid post. If you want any, mention the people that you named or that type of thing. That's such a gift. You are a gift. She really is. Um, I'm reading comments. I'm just scrolling back. And I think you answered what Rebecca said. What about family and friend support now? Well, you talked about them, not really being interested in changing your diet.
Yeah.
But is
Well, I'm single. I live alone. Some friends kind of. It's interesting to see like some friends backed off, some friends drew close. There was a shift in my people.
mm,
You know, so be it.
wow. They
It
say it reveals a lot about, your friendships and connections when you go through things like that. I can only imagine. And
yeah
like I get like some people get uncomfortable, and I do believe that sometimes it's not personal. Um, some people get uncomfortable and don't know what to say. Um, but no, you really do know the difference of who really truly does support you.
yeah
No matter what, just generally through caring about you, no matter what path if you would have chose to go the route of chemo or stuck to the path that you went through, you really do know who's truly for you.
yeah
Um, you do. Let's see. So someone said those doctors had to eat some humble pie. I bet you did. They played it low key, like, oh, good for you, but just how can you deny like how awesome and amazing that is? People are just praising God for you for what God has done. They're praising him in the comments. Oh man, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out. Have you had an opportunity to share your testimony like this before?
No, and that's what I was going to say. Thank you, because it it's like in a lot of circles, it's just like it's all over, and it's just like I have a testimony. Like, who do I tell? Like, so you saw that in me, and you saw the opportunity to inspire others and to share all that God's done, and I want to definitely continue to do that. I'm going to be, working on my website, getkidsbehave.com, and I'm going to have like a spiritual health tab and a physical health tab, and then the parent coaching health tab. But I want to share, just all that I leaned on, to help me through this. Um, and
Yes.
yeah, help people, because this story is inspiring, and I shouldn't just hide it and keep it to myself, but I want to help others. I mean, I gave it all I've got, and might as well help others if they're in a time of need. It might help them. Like the song, I'm thinking of putting a playlist of all the songs that I had on repeat, the worship music. I mean, the scriptures I had, uh, you know, right there helping me, for healing. The YouTube videos I would listen to for healing, the sermons. Like I want to just kind of work on that to, in case anyone wants to look at that to help them in a time of need.
I think that's a beautiful idea. And I honestly will say, like, this is just the beginning. And just because things got quiet in your circle of people, if this is like old news, okay, yeah, she's no longer diagnosed with cancer. She's got clear readings. Okay, on to the next. Like, no, this is huge. This is tremendous. Like, there's so many people who have never heard your story. And, in a world that we're living in where cancer is at an all-time high, this is the time to tell your testimony even more. So I praise God for him highlighting you to me, to reach out to you. And the same was with another, she's in the room too, another one of our ELE members who hadn't told her testimony before the way she did. And, you know, my prayer is the same thing for you, that this would be just the beginning of you sharing it. And just because your testimony may be old news to some, it doesn't make your testimony old. It's no point, and this is to anyone listening, there's no point in your life where your testimony is old news. And if you have not told what God has done for you specifically related to anything, you know, dust your testimony off. If it's been sitting in a corner somewhere covered by some stuff, and yeah, that's what God did for me, you know, however many years ago. I mean, honestly, walking with God is not boring. So there should always be something you can testify about. If you actually think about it, there's always something that God is doing for us. But just here to encourage everyone that's listening. Tell your testimony. It doesn't matter how many other people you told it to. There's so many people who have not heard it yet. So this
And
is
keep
just
it.
the beginning. This is just the start. This is like tonight, this is like fireworks and like a grand finale, but I feel like it's uh a moment of springing forth for you. So I just declare and decree that this will ignite something in you just from you opening up your mouth, and how powerful that is, just to open up your mouth and everything that you shared, that all of a sudden that just becomes like a desire. I have to tell it more. I have to tell it more, you know, because God is, he was truly glorified on tonight. I thank you. Thank you. Thank
And
you. Thank you. Thank you
one
for
thing
your
I want to
time.
say, like,
Yes.
even another reason for dusting off that old testimony is because if you are faced with a new trial, you look back on what God has done in the past, and that is the huge basis on which you can believe him for that, for the future, like
Yes.
the monument stones or whatever they call it, you know like, have it fresh in your mind, not only to share with people but for your own self, so that you remember what he's done for you. And he's the same God yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and he'll do that for you. And even as a single woman, like, I've been single for a while, so I haven't been really praying for a future husband, but this experience has caused me to renew those prayers, because it's like, well, man, if you did all this, God, you can
Yes.
certainly do that, and
Yes.
like I told you, your posts have inspired me in that area. But yeah, so keeping present to what God has done in the past helps us with believing him for what we pray for in the future.
Mm, I love that. It all connects. It's so true. And I always talk about not make sure you don't get spiritual amnesia and forget what God has done for you, because sometimes we forget about, we don't think on it. We don't reflect enough about it. So like, I love what you just said and how that connects. So if you've just hopped in, or you hopped in a little late, don't worry. I'm glad that you got the morsels and everything that you could catch. But definitely, we're gonna log off. But when we do, and this video is reposted, trust and believe you better go back and rewatch this. You're gonna be so blessed, so moved. We journeyed through with Maura about, you know, what everything looked like from the beginning to where she is right now. And like I said, she's gonna be in the group until tomorrow sometime. So she's gonna put some post up, and if you're not doing anything tomorrow, you're not working and whatever, you can watch the full length of this tomorrow with fresh set of eyes and, you know, well rested. But I appreciate you, Maura. Thank you for coming on. Thank you everyone who is here and those who will watch on the replay. Praying God's blessings over your Sabbath as you rest or do whatever it is that you're going to be doing on tomorrow. Just a reminder, no morning worship on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. And our group ends on Tuesday, y'all. So let's finish strong. Um, I just want to say I praise God. I praise God for tonight. I'm so happy. Thank you again, Maura. And don't forget, everybody, what is it? Progress over perfection. Love yourself to health and eat like Eden. All right. Have a good night. Thanks, Maura. Love you.
Love you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.